I seek to learn and share with you my own journey and path of learning and understanding on the level I am. The interpretation and views are my own. The Prophet, on Freedom by Kahlil Gibran in an order said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your foresight I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. A. In the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life and yet you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its lengths glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? If it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, not by washing the foreheads of your judges, though you pour the teas upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom and a shame in their one pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that card has been chosen by you rather than impose upon you. And if it is a fear you would dispel, the seed of that fear and in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily all things move within you being in constant half-embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights and shadows in pairs that cling. And when the shadow fades and is no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom when it loses its fetters become itself the fetter of a greater freedom. Let's explore on freedom from the Prophet. This chapter is one of the most misunderstood and profound. It doesn't simply define freedom, it dissects our illusions about it. The Prophet, on Freedom by Kahlil Gibran. Philosophical and Psychological Analysis. 1. I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant. Philosophical insight. Gibran exposes a paradox. We idolize freedom while often being enslaved by our own concepts of it. Like people who worship the idea of freedom but live in fear, dependency, or ego-driven pride. Psychological layer. This is ego masking, when we believe we are free but are still acting from unhealed wounds or unconscious patterns. Gibran invites us to look deeper. Is what we call freedom just a reaction, a pose, or a costume? 2. The freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. Reflection. How often do we chain ourselves to an identity of being free? Here, Gibran warns against performative freedom, the kind that still seeks approval or distinction. The one that says, "Look at me, I'm free," while still being bound to ego, rebellion, or validation. Spiritual message. True freedom doesn't need to be announced, it simply is. It is quiet, untethered, and doesn't defend itself. 3. You can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you. Philosophical core. This is one of Gibran's boldest statements. He equates the desire for freedom with bondage itself. Why? Because when we obsess over freedom, we are still caught in duality, still not present. We are chasing an idea rather than living the essence. Insight. This struck me. The desire to be free can become a prison if we define freedom as a destination, not a state of being. Letting go of the chase is freedom. 4. You shall be free indeed when you rise above cares and griefs, naked and unbound. Psychological interpretation. This isn't escapism. Gibran doesn't suggest freedom is the absence of difficulty, but the mastery within it. He speaks of emotional and spiritual resilience, being touched by life's struggles, but not defined by them. Perspective. Freedom isn't found in escaping the storm, but in learning to dance through it. To rise naked and unbound is to become emotionally whole, not numb. 5. That which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun. Jungian view. This is the shadow of freedom, when our glittering ideals hide deep fears or unconscious drives. We might leave a job, a relationship, or religion claiming freedom, but are we really free if we're still reacting to pain? Caution, I hear Gibran saying, don't mistake rebellion for liberation. Freedom isn't shiny. It's silent, centered, and unafraid of stillness. 6. If it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. Philosophical depth, this is radical responsibility. Gibran reminds us, society is not separate from us, we created it. If we want to change the world, we must first confront the parts of ourselves that allowed it to be what it is. Realization, true freedom requires internal revolution. We can't burn books or blame judges until we unlearn the laws we live by inwardly: fear, guilt, shame, control. If it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. Spiritual insight, every outer tyrant reflects an inner tyrant, self-judgment, perfectionism, or fear. Gibran is calling for shadow work, to dethrone the critic within before pointing outward. Reflection, this reminded me of the times I silenced my own joy or withheld love from myself. Freedom begins when we stop oppressing ourselves. 8. Verily all things move within your being. The desired and the dreaded. The light and shadow and pairs that cling. Psychological message, we are not just one thing. Freedom is not the absence of duality, but the embrace of it. To live freely is to allow both joy and sorrow, desire and fear, to pass through us without possession. No, this gives me peace. I no longer need to choose between my light and my dark. They move together, and both are sacred. 9. Your freedom becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. Closing thought, freedom, like all spiritual truths, has layers. What feels like liberation today may one day feel like limitation. And that's not failure, it's evolution. Final insight, this chapter showed me that freedom is not a place. It is a practice of awareness, responsibility, and surrender. The more we open, the more we are called to let go, again and again. Thank you for sharing in my journey.